Well, welcome to the Anglo-Omani Society. We're still operating from our homes. I'm sitting in London. I'm Richard Muir, the Vice President, or one of the Vice Presidents more precisely. And I'm delighted to have three colleagues all sitting much more comfortably than me in the warmth of Muscat, and we rather envy them being there. Although it's a great pity that we can't all be together today in the Anglo-Omani Society headquarters in Sackville Street. We're now 1 year on from the succession of Sultan Haytham bin Tariq, and we join many others in wishing him good health, happiness, and every continued success. He has just issued a new basic law. Vision 2040 has been launched, and we have the 2021 budget, a new 5-year plan. Last month saw a significant GCC summit, and the Biden administration is, of course, about to take over in Washington. So this is a good moment to examine how the considerable domestic and foreign challenges facing the Sultanate in 2021 are likely to be handled, and how the country is reacting and changing as a consequence. We're very fortunate to have with us from Muscat three distinguished and very experienced commentators. We've already circulated their biographical notes, and I hope you've all seen them. But just to recap, our first speaker, Dr. Yusuf Al-Balushi, is founding partner of Smart Investment Gateway, which advises on investment promotion in Oman. Before launching his consultancy, Dr. Yusuf was chief economist for the Vision 2040 task force, and he's had over 20 years of professional experience as an economist at the Central Bank of Oman and at the Supreme Council for Planning. So he's extremely well qualified to talk us through economic challenges and changes. And you'll be able to see further detail on his presentation in material that we will send out after the webinar. Secondly, Fatma El-Arimi is an Omani journalist with over 12 years experience in local and international media houses. She's co-founder and managing director of the Media Center and edits Oman's only bilingual international news service, WAF. She was previously Reuters correspondent in Oman. She's one of the most followed Omani journalists on social media. She's well known to the Society following her excellent podcast in November, where she talked a lot about her career and life. Today, Fatma will cover, among other things, public and media opinion. Thirdly, and not least, Dr. Abdullah Babood is well known to us for his regular wise comment in our discussion panels and webinars. He's an Omani academic and researcher. He holds a Cambridge PhD and a couple of master's degrees. He's taught and conducted research at several universities and institutions in Europe, in Qatar, and in Singapore. And we've asked him today to update us on foreign policy, but I hope he won't stop at that. I'll now turn over to the panelists, who will each speak for about 10 minutes. And as we go, I'll group up the questions from the Zoom Q&A function, and after the presentations, put them to the panel. This 1 hour webinar is on the record and will be available later on our website. So now over to
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear friends and colleagues, I'm grateful for the invitations, and I'm delighted to have the opportunity to briefly talk about Oman outlook and the wind of change blowing in and around Oman economy and society. A set of forces that need to be mentioned and managed so that we can catch the wind in our sail to push up forward to lead to the right directions. I have 10 minutes, so I'll be very brief, and I've been requested to cover 3 areas. One is the vision, Oman Vision 2040, as the main enablers for the futures. And second, I will be touch upon the tawazun, to achieve what they call it, physical sustainability. Last but not least, I'll talk about my favorite topic, which is foreign direct investment as a facilitators of change. So let me start by saying that to me and to many others, Oman has a successful and exciting story. And in the last 5 decades, was really Oman progressed nicely in all aspects of the development. We can read that from local and international indicators, and also in our social aspects, such as human development and women empowerment. It's clear that also Oman invests wisely on our upgrading our infrastructures, and it's ready for the new stage of the development. I mean, you will see in the presentation which you are going to find that I differentiate between 3 stages of development in Oman. One which starts from 1970 to 1994, where Oman started from scratch and was growing on 7.5 annual growth. I mean, building the basic component of the modern state, school, hospital, and I mean, getting the law, all this. The second stage, which is the Vision 2040, starting from 1995 to 2020, and that produced Oman we know today. The third stage, which is the most important one, is our futures, which is Oman Vision 2040. And Vision 2040, honestly, based on the accomplishment of Oman on the last the 5 decades. However, it is really challenging because Oman in a stage where it needs to change their mood of the development. Yes, we through having a successful story when it comes to a lot of aspects, but also when it comes to economic diversifications, private sector performance, and public sector management, we have a lot of challenges. So Vision 2040 slogan, we always present it as moving forward with the confident. And that, I mean, really needed at least to strengthen the what they call it, the relation between the state, the people, and society. And to be clear that Oman, I mean, challenges now to move toward what they call it a paradigm shift from state managed, where the state is really job producers, investors, and investment providers, as well as to which is a rentier economy, to the new mood of the development, which all agree that will be based on more of production, of private sector led. We'll really be focusing more into making things in Oman and try really to maximize our utilizations of what we've been achieved. And also to me and to a lot of people who work in the vision, that we are quite confident that Oman has all what it takes. Yes, true, we are having a lot of challenges, either local challenges, geopolitical, and also challenges when it comes to the energy development, fourth industrial revolutions, and the growing number of job seekers in Oman. However, I mean, also we need to note that Oman population is only 4.7, which is 2.7 is only Omani. So it's a small population with a huge country with plenty of resources. And honestly, the degree of readiness, particularly when it comes to the people, the Omani themselves, and to the wonderful relation between Oman and the rest of the world, which that can help them honestly to bring and attract whatever missing on the what they call it, the development formula. I mean, looking to the capital, looking to the market, looking to the what they call it, technology. So we are really when it comes to the Vision 2040, it has 4 key features, which you will see it written clearly on the presentation. One that is being really done and collectively in participatory approach, and honestly written by Omani. We didn't rely on one of the big 4 to write it. We really sweat on it, and we move around all our governated. We share it with our people, and all are aware of the current stage of the development and what is needed. The problem, I mean, one of the criticized we've been always facing, that we still are not able to send what they call it a clear media messages when it comes to what is the role needed by the individuals, by businesses, because moving from state or rentier economy mindset to the new mindset of people where they need to look to the entrepreneur, to be look for really private job, being more creative, to wait for the government job. That is honestly, we've been criticized that more job need to be done, and more what they call it messages need to be sent. And also private sector, we all agree that they are all heavily rely on the government spending, government revenue, and rely also in a cheap expat labor, rely on imports, and that we all agree that it's unsustainable. So we are looking for more local content, for productions, for manufacturings, and I think that is doable. We also recently see the changes happen to the what they call it energy market, and the problem of relying on single resources, and which really led to Oman and all other oil economy to really suffer badly from relying heavily on one single resources. And we all agree that Oman and others, particularly GCC country, I mean, you are talking about 85% of their public revenue coming from oil, which is unsustainable. And we all agree that there is a lot of both demand and supply pressures on oil. So I think a lot been done, and we can see, I mean, a lot of royal degree coming, and more than 100, I don't know, 140, which is really demonstrate the willingness of the state, of the government, to move to strongly on the new path of the development. But we all agree that that will be not a rosy, what they call it, journey. I mean, there will be a lot of people, they didn't get used to it, and particularly when it comes to moving from what they call it welfare state, where we distribute the income, where people being asked to really look in certain measures. And that honestly, the vision, by the way, as a document is really divided into 4 pillars. One related to the people and society, one related to the economy, one to the environment, and one to the government effectiveness and the governance. You will see more details on the material will be sent to you. And how vision is going to be implemented? Honestly, we agree that there is 5 national program for what they call it vision realizations. Chief among them is really working what they call it in the change management, where the people really start changing some of their perception, their behavior, their mindset toward the new reality, which is, by the way, it's nothing wrong with it. Oman, for the last 50 years, as we said, invest wisely on its infrastructures. So continue on the same path. It's not going really to harness what been invested before. So it is a usual progress for the country to move toward more, what they call it, production, local production, more of investment, more of the export. The second point I want to make that also the second program is related to the economic, to the administrative restructurings, and we can see that a lot of Omani have early retirement, and to allow also the public finance to achieve its to deal with its own challenges. We have a digital national program for digitalizations. Last but not least is the physical program, where we will be talking about tawazun. And there is some perceptions, by the way, of tawazun, and we all agree that unfortunately we are behind a lot of best practice when it comes to managing what they call it, our public finance, managing what they call it, certain behavior. I mean, we've been also criticized that we are over consuming of utilities, of electricity, and it was all agree that was unsustainable. And we noticed that from 2014 until today, I mean, oil price was in declining mood, which really reflects on really having a dramatic increase in our debt, which also reflect on sharp, what they call it, decrease in our rating, which is make Oman and difficult, what they call it, to get what they call it, facility or borrowing money from outside. And having a clear framework for taxations and have a new cultures of what they call it, cost sharing, and also is essential. So when it comes to tawazun and taxations, what they call it, initiative, or the FAT, which will be coming in April, or others, honestly, they are talking about 5%, and that also we have 99 essential goods being exempt. The whole sector of education, health also being exempt. So if we look to the really impact, to me, it will be for the society will be limited. Also, government is really working on a comprehensive, holistic softness program. So we need always to look on a positive, what they call it. Oman is turning now, and the turning is really, we need to be very careful, because sometimes sending wrong messages could really result on what they call it, positive action. So I'll conclude by saying here that we strongly, again, I mean, Oman has, alhamdulillah, wealth of international relation, has wealth of natural resources. It has its people also, its history. And as I'm always saying that for 2.7 Omani, I mean, our complicity is not really that. We can really manage it. We can, I mean, I'm reading a lot of appreciation from some international magazines and some agencies about the progress happening in Oman. And we can see some, what they call it, good progress in sector kind like of fisheries and agricultures and others. So I think to me 2021 is going to be a tough year as well, and there will be a lot of measures, and we'll be that journey is going to continue. But I think we are all aware that, I mean, what's happening to Oman is not unique only to Oman. It's all the GCC country, and most of the oil economy, they are working in transforming their economy. And always we are saying that it's a matter of time that we can really grab and harness the fruit of what's been done recently. And we're confident that, alhamdulillah, our smooth transition, and Sultan Haytham, who is the leader of Vision 2040, and he knows all these details, is aware of the kind of challenges we are currently have, but we are also addressing that challenges. I'll leave it to that, because I'd like to hear more when it comes to the session of Q&A.
Dr. Yusuf, thank you very much indeed, and thank you for condensing so much into the short time that we allowed you. And the extra material that you provided will be fascinating. We'll move on now to Fatma, if we may.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for having me on the panel. After what Dr. Yusuf said, I think he set the bar very high for me to match. So I'll shift to the more social aspect and how the people feel about all these changes, especially with the Tawazun coming into effect. One key element the Sultan has been focusing on in the last 12 months in his speeches and in different decisions that we've seen was accountability. And I think this is very important aspect where the society is interested to see. Now, the definition itself of accountability, does it has to be accountability along with publicity or not? This will be debatable because the public will always want to see someone held accountable in public. While we do not see, or whatever we've seen decision taken by the Sultan, it doesn't seem to be his style to associate accountability with publicity for various reasons. And this, I think, is one of the things that we see in the very recent law, the law of Oman Council, which came out only yesterday. One of the main things that came and was debated widely on social media platforms over the last 24 hours is that the council itself, Ashura Council, which is the elected chamber of the Omani parliament, can have the authority to question ministers, but it has to be in a closed session. Now, many of these tools, or all these tools that the parliament now can use, including questioning the ministers, they did not used to be part of the basic law or even the royal decrees coming from the Sultan in the past. It was only part of the internal legislations inside in the council itself. So it did not have enough teeth to actually compel or force the cabinet to follow or commit to these tools. Now, when we have these tools as part of a royal decree, which is the highest ranking form of legislation in the country, that is somehow you can be cautiously optimistic that this will give these parliamentarian tools more teeth to question the performance of the ministries. But at the same time, people, as I said earlier, would want to see this put on public display, where I don't think they will get what they are looking for. And maybe this is what is currently debated in Oman. Should this to be considered a step forward, or it is a step backwards when it comes to the parliament in the country? Another thing that is still being debated in the society, given the recent changes, and this is connected to Tawazun plan, the mid-term fiscal plan Dr. Yusuf was talking about. Part of it was the restructure of the subsidy, especially electricity and water subsidy, and other restructuring of other services, including wastewater and municipal waste management subsidy, will also be restructured during this plan. So this is also being debated by the public. People are not happy whenever something to do with new taxes being presented by the government, when there are new fees to be introduced, or when the subsidy is lifted. So now the government is to balance these feelings by the public. So what we've seen is on one day we've heard about these announcements about restructuring the subsidy. A few weeks during the same month, we've heard another step that touches another segment of the society, a move that was very much welcomed by the public, which is cutting or eliminating completely benefits of high officials. It included all the employees in the government, but it also included the high officials, which gave the public some feeling of that we are sharing the burden with others. We are not the only segment of the society that's taking this burden. But at the same time, we are seeing that even the segment of the society which will continue to enjoy the subsidy of electricity, for example, it represents 40% of the Omani families. And this statistic was mentioned by the Secretary General of the Ministry of Finance, which means you have almost half of your society needs to be subsidized. So the coming few years will be a big pressure on the government to actually shrink this percentage, because it is still considered a big percentage of the society that still need subsidy or still needs a handout from the government. So if you are to increase the income, the average income of families in Oman, you need to allow the economy to grow faster, to allow them to get more jobs in the future. Now, what shall we expect in the coming 12 months or in 2021? I think it will be a positive year for more than one reason. One aspect is to do with the freedom of expression, something we've seen it getting better in the last 12 months. We've seen people expressing their dissatisfaction with government decisions more frequently and in different aspects. And this is a good thing, without being held accountable for any reason. If they are not they are not naming names, or they are not accusing a certain official of corruption, for example, but they have more freedom to criticize these taken by the Ministry of Information just last month is to allow private media to register in the country. For the first time, not only in Oman, but also in the GCC, Oman is allowing private news agencies to be registered, which is something very new to this part of the world. So this is also will reflect positively on freedom of expression and the content of the media. Another thing we expect to see more on is the decentralization of authority. We've seen the Sultan giving more authority to the governorates over the last 12 months and giving them their own budgets to allocate them how they see fit based on their resources, their needs, and their plans, which is something very positive. And perhaps the delay itself of the municipal elections that was supposed to happen last year, it was delayed due to COVID-19, but the delay itself is a blessing in disguise, because now the new councils will be aware of their new responsibilities, their new powers, and how can they use these resources to the best. So these are few of the very good things that we expect to see in the coming year. One last point, and I will leave it at that, is the implementation of the laws. One thing is to do with the most recent law, the Council of Oman. Now it will be up to a Shura Council to actually fulfill and to put these tools into actions. If they are to be trusted, or at least to gain the trust of the public, they will have to utilize these tools that are now part of a formal law in the country. They have to put it to use to actually keep the ministers of the services on check. Because from one part, they will have to keep an eye. There is another committee as part of the basic law that reports to the Sultan directly, also will be keeping an eye on their performance. So this itself we'll have to see in the coming 1 year or few months to come how these laws are put into action, because that will gain the trust of the public. I'll leave it at that, and I welcome any questions from the participants.
Thank you very much indeed, Fatima. Again, you've condensed a great deal into a short time. There are so many new developments coming at us that it is quite a challenge to get it all in. We'll turn now to Dr. Abdullah Babood.
Thank you, Richard and Nick and the colleagues at the Anglo-Omani Society for the kind invitation, and good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. It's always a pleasure to participate in the Anglo-Omani Society event and get invited to this. Is always a privilege. I will see if I can condense all the topics I need to talk about in the next 10 minutes or so. It's a big challenge, but I am sure many of you here in this panel know the basic principles of the Omani foreign policy, which I'm supposed to be talking about. And that is, Oman has always been playing its foreign policy based on accepting international law, good neighborhood, and resolution of conflicts through diplomacy, dialogue, avoiding conflicts at all costs, and through cooperation and coordination with its regional partners and international partners. Now, with the change that took place a year ago with the passing away of His Majesty Sultan Qaboos and coming of a new leadership under Sultan Haytham, the big question that arose is, will the foreign policy continue to be the same? Is it just made by Sultan Qaboos himself, or is it, and is Sultan Haytham going to continue on the same path or not? The other question that also arose is that what my colleagues have been talking about, both Dr. Yusuf and Fatima have been talking about the economic situation and the domestic issue. And we cannot separate domestic politics from foreign relations. And the two are very much interrelated. And given, of course, the economic or say financial situation that Oman is now going through, as many people in the panel would know, the question again arose whether Oman will be able to continue this independent foreign policy, or is its economic woes going to push it more towards positioning itself within a certain camp within the Gulf states, because there isn't yet one camp within the GCC. We're talking about maybe 2 or 3 different camps within the GCC. And I think Sultan Haytham answered to this in his first and second speech, and also what followed from there. And basically, he said that Oman and his government will continue on the same path as Sultan Qaboos in terms of its foreign policy principles and its foreign policy action. And I think that kind of answered to this question, and maybe I can stop here, Richard, if you want me to do so, but I think you don't want me to stop there. And I will just go on by saying that while I accept that there is going to be continuity, I think we also have to understand there is going to be change as well. And change is a matter of life. We all change through our lives in many ways, and foreign policy does change as well. And although the principles and the core ideas will continue to be the same, there are going to be changes because of course, the change of leadership itself. So there's going to be a change in style, the change of how the government is going about doing its business, which is again different because we are seeing a lot of changes that are taking place in terms of new announcements, new positions that have been replaced, some very senior positions, including the role of the foreign minister, etc. And we are seeing new laws and that have been put in place. But also the economic situation is going to have an impact, and we cannot deny that. But also there are regional changes that are taking place and international dynamics that are taking place. So I'll start very quickly because of the time to talk a little bit about the regional dynamics. What we've gone through is a period of where there was a Gulf spat that fortunately ended soon, and Oman had played a very, very important part in supporting the Kuwaiti initiative for moderating this conflict. And Al-Ula meeting in Saudi Arabia, which saw a reconciliation between the Gulf states, was a welcome mode in Oman, and it was welcomed by both the government and the public, because we were all badly affected by the region. And why? Because the Gulf or the Gulf Cooperation Council, the GCC, is something that Oman really, considered to be a very important regional organization that it is part of. And it sees that coordination, cooperation, and integration is very important for its own well-being and also for the regional well-being. And as a small country, we need to be integrated into a larger market, which is here in this case, the GCC. And also, we don't like to see conflicts between its members. And many GCC projects have stopped because of these conflicts. Travels, businesses also have been affected. So the ending of this conflict has been a very welcome, if you like, point that Oman has been happy with. Now, Oman has also been working on quietly, but also forcefully, on trying to end the conflict in Yemen. Yemen is a neighboring country. What goes on in Yemen affects Oman. There are a lot of cultural, geographical, security linkages that Oman and Yemen share, and what goes in Yemen can have a repercussion in Oman. And of course, Oman doesn't want to see this conflict continuing, and it doesn't want to see the humanitarian suffering in Yemen. And again, given its principle that conflicts can be resolved through diplomatic means, through negotiations, Oman is pushing very hard by creating this venue where all the different factions of the Yemeni government can actually come and meet in Oman, and also by other countries that are involved in the conflict can come and meet in Oman, and Oman is facilitating that. So the movement towards the Riyadh agreement and is of course welcome, but I think labeling Houthis as a terrorist organization, however we might think about them, probably is not necessarily going to help the negotiations. I don't know how Oman is officially going to look into that, but I certainly think it's not going to help. If you label one party that you really want to talk to as a terrorist organization, and then you have to go and sit with them at the table, it creates certain impediments to that. And of course, what is going on between the escalation now in the Gulf between Iran and the United States is also very disturbing for Oman and also for the region. And hopefully this is just both countries playing political games and getting ready for the day after when Biden takes over. So Oman is going to welcome the forthcoming American-US administration because it wants to go back to the JCPOA and to negotiation with Iran and to perhaps with a new strategy for resolving conflicts that are different from the current or outgoing Trump administration. Oman is also trying to balance its relationship between China, which is again a very active global partner that is raising its profile in the region, and also with its relationship with traditional partners like the UK, the United States, and Western partners, and also India and Pakistan. So this omni-balancing game is going to be a challenge for Oman. And I think we have seen also that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has now started to reconcile itself by advising its ambassadors to focus more on economic issues, which is well overdue, of course. And again, it relates to what my colleagues have been talking about, the economic situation there we're facing. And I think this is important, but I have lots of question marks about the ability just to switch very quickly from one mode of operation to another without being able to train the people, without having to have the mindset to do so in terms of, the ambassadors, the diplomatic staff, and how the ministry functions in that regard. And I think there are a lot of expectations that are very high now in the country, within the country. Young people want employment and want opportunities, etc. Economic situation is not so good. The private sector is suffering. As many people would know, the financial situation is actually quite challenging. And as well as all these regional and international global challenges that are taking place are going to be tremendous. And, it's a matter of managing these challenges and managing expectations. I believe that Sultan Haytham has inherited a country that has established itself on the forefront of international diplomacy, and it's also inherited a country that has also undergoing some economic challenges now. And he is trying to do his best to do so. And he's trying to pick a team that's going to help him to do so. The question is how successful this is going to be, how long this is going to take, what kind of regional dynamics are going to change. Is the Biden administration going to really change its relationship with Iran, and we're going to see a de-escalation in the region, or the region is heading towards a conflict? Is the Gulf crisis that has been resolved, is it just a temporary thing, or is it more dangerous than what we think? All these questions are still unanswered, and I think it's going to be a very hard work for our people in the foreign policy to follow all these changing environments. And I see Richard looking at me fiercely, so he wants me to stop here, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you. Thank you, Richard.
Well, Abdullah, you seem to me to have yourself asked a lot of questions, and perhaps we could spend some time pushing you further for answers on some of them. The questions that have come through, I think, relate some to the economy, some to the Shura Council and the sort of constitutional issues, and some to foreign policy. Should we start with the economy and turn primarily to Dr. Yusuf? This question from Mohammed Al-Hinai. Can the economic strategy be flexible and be living and breathing, adjusting to the economic and social and political conditions as they change? And there was another question too on Vision 2040 and what has been done so far to shift more of the economic activity to the private sector, and has that gone far enough, and how will it go further? Would you like to take those on? Dr. Yusuf?
Yes, I mean, for the question number one, yes, I mean, the name of the game is flexibility, and how dynamic is the vision. And honestly, that being ensured, I mean, we all know that Vision 2040 has around 68 KPIs, which is local and international KPIs to manage the progress on the vision. And vision is where we want to be, but when it comes to the action plan, it is it is what they call it. It is changeable, and it's been already changed, because let us agree. I mean, the model which Dr. Abdullah talked about, it's going to be challenging. We do. I mean, changing from the state welfare model where we have. We have problem on all the four functions of the either government or the companies, and even people and society and international. All those, the players of the economy need to have a new rule to be aligned with the Vision 2040, which is we call it is a restructuring vision, or reforming vision, or sometimes for productivity. So the rule of those four players will need to be changed. And also when it comes to to the four factor of production. I mean, we have a serious problem when it comes to the capital locally and attracting foreign direct investment. I can see Ministry of Commerce is really putting a lot of effort, but it is a long journey. I mean, when it comes for economic development, I mean, it's not quick. It will take some time to really see the result. And also when it comes to our labor, Oman, we understand that 90%, 91% of the labor are having only secondary school and below. So we cannot compete. And 85 from them only from Asian, I mean, India, Pakistan, they are not spending, penny here in the country. So all these need really a paradigm shift. Also, when it comes to the leadership of the economic leadership, I mean, we've been really criticized and things being scattered, who's accountable for really taking decision, giving the green signal. That's been addressed. It's still not much clear, but I mean, there is really serious work is going on. And that's what gives us a comfort that we are really progressing toward the new transformational vision. For the second questions, what was about?
Is the economy still too reliant on the government sector?
Yeah, private sector, yes. We always saying that we'd like the private sector to lead, but it is a state in the end. We can say something verbally, but the action is different, because nobody want to leave his responsibility and privilege, So private sector, because they used to be only heavily rely on the government spending, heavily rely on the government tender, their negotiation power is really less. To force government to really decide on certain priority. I think the new model, government is realizing that when there will be taxation, there will be representation, there will be some change on the what they call it social contract. The company will demand, and the society, when they start paying the tax, they'll demand having more clarity, more transparency, and I think this is what Fatma alluded when she was talking.
Yeah, perhaps we could pick up on that and the question of the Majlis Oman and how the Majlis Oman will conduct itself in the future. One questioner suggested that they've been rather conservative in the past and have not really got on top or with the pattern of development. Would you expect the Majlis Oman to be pushing now more proactively for greater development and greater opening up?
I presume the question is for me.
Yeah.
Well, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, the new law gives them a certain set of abilities to do, but I do not see it giving them more authority than what they used to have. Now they have the same tool that they used to have, which is parliamentarian questions, questioning ministers, inquiring about certain things. All these tools, they used to have them earlier, but not all of them were fully utilized, including questioning. In Arabic, they say it interrogation, istijwab, the ministers, but they not even once that tool was successfully used, because there has been some requests from a Shura Council, and I'll focus here more on a Shura Council, which is the elected chamber of the parliament, because the other chamber is appointed by the Sultan, which is the State Council. And more of the criticism or more of the interaction is happening with the elected branch of the parliament, Ashura. So they not even once were successful to actually bring a minister and question him or her about what they believe is to be an illegal action, not even once in the history. And that because this tool was there in their internal legislation, but it was never part of a royal decree. So the cabinet was not under any power, under pressure to actually comply with any of these requests. But now it is detailed how to follow the process of questioning a sitting minister, and that had the power of the law. It will only be clear if they actually are using these tools in the best way they can to actually have more power to change things, to be more engaged and more influential when it comes to policymaker or not. If the future proves that they are still treating the same tools as they used to, then nothing has changed, to be honest. It is the same scenario. Nothing will change unless they fully uh, utilize these tools by the power of law. Only then they can be more, let's say, break out of the very conservative route that they used to have as put.
Thank you very much. Here's one from Sharki Sultan, I think probably best for Dr. Abdullah. Wouldn't the economic situation put pressure on the country's foreign policy? And that's the question. Leave you to elaborate.
A very difficult question, and I think Shoki would know more about this than myself. But if I may, I just wanted to say that the debate within Oman, just related to the earlier intervention, that the debate within Oman, it has really moved now. I'm not answering directly the question, I'm just talking about previously. That everywhere I go, people are discussing issues that are beyond what was accepted in the future, in the past. And I think, we are going through a change, definitely. And I think, the jury is still out as to how effective these changes are going to kind of meet and touch what the people's expectations are. And I think that's going to be really challenging. Answering this question, of course, economic situation do have an impact on foreign policy, especially when, the country is facing the reality as it is now. We're a real debt, and the debt crisis is quite serious, and so we need to change. And that change is not necessarily to go and submit to regional countries to help us, but to be much more active or proactive in terms of our foreign policy. Because some people do actually think that the change is going to make sure it will force us to go in one camp of the Gulf against the other. And that is, I don't think that is going to change. It's not ever in Oman's history that it's, it has to side and be in an alliance against any other country. It's always want to be neutral and independent in its foreign policy. But I think the change is going to take place, what I was referring to earlier, where the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the mood within the country, the officials are now thinking more economy, and not just, getting the news that Oman has been successful in moderating this event or that conflict and so on. So for what? The people ask, what did we get out of it? So I think now Oman needs to use this good relationship with its partners in the UK, in the US, in the West, in the East, as well as within the region, to ensure that that we are going to see a much more enhanced economic relationship, FDI investment into the region, and the diversification of the economy that is also needed. So yes, it is forcing us to change in that respect, in many ways. And I think it's a welcome change. We need it. The country needs it. And I think the partners also need it. And I think some of the changes that are taking place in the constitution, if you like, in Oman, especially the appointing of the crown prince, is actually leading towards this, because it shows continuity, it shows stability. There is no ambiguity about who's going to be the next leader, etc., and that encourages foreign investment, encourages businesses to invest and come and do business with Oman. So that that we are seeing change, and I said there are there are changes taking place, but there is also continuity with certain principles that are not going to change. I hope I helped to answer that question.
I think that was an excellent answer. One slightly related to it is from Baroness de Souza, who says, what about the impact of China's investment in infrastructure? I think she has Duqm in particular in mind, and the long-term effect this will have on Oman's relationship with China and on Oman's economy. Who wants to go on that? Dr. Yusuf, perhaps first, and Abdullah.
To me, I think Vision 2040, we demonstrate clearly that the name of the game is the partnership, is joining hand with our friends. For Oman really to move ahead and to deal with the current challenges, particularly the pressing one, like the job creations for Omani, we need really to join hand with our friends from the UK, from China, from Europe, from US. And we always honestly welcome, FDI, but honestly, there was some issue when it comes to from where we get the FDI, the foreign direct investment, because sometimes, we want foreign investment for certain economic reason, which is to get the productivity spillover from the international player to local player. To the know-how, the productivity, the capital. So if that's not happening, that's why either we get it from Chinese, which is normally they are in the end list when it comes to productivity spillover, or we get it from Europe, or from the UK. And to me, Oman is well positioned and has all ingredients now to open up when it comes to showing their really clear and tabulated with the proper details opportunity. And if we move to that direction, we can really accelerate the result. We can really create a job. We can really diversify. And we, as Abdullah mentioned, we can commercialize on our excellent international relationship being built in this country.
Do you want to comment, Abdullah?
Yes, Richard, thank you. And I think it's an important question. Of course, there is an investment, Chinese investment into Oman. Oman is open for international investment from any source or any country, as long as it is, legitimate. It doesn't interfere in the internal and domestic politics of the country, and it creates in-country value and helps Oman to diversify. So I don't think Oman has any apprehension about accepting investments from any country in that respect. However, there are issues that are happening, as many people in the panel and the participant would know, the US-Chinese relation, and how does this affect further China, if you like, investment in the region, and in what sectors as well. So Oman will have to be careful in that and watch what is going on in this respect. There has been an announcement of very large Chinese investment, but from what I understand, and maybe some of my colleagues in the panel will correct me, that this has not really taken place. There's only been very little investment that has taken place. But Oman also enjoys good relationship with India, which is again in conflict with China, as you know, and we'll have to watch what is going on. And as you know, Oman has also given facilities to India. Oman has good relationship with Pakistan. So Oman doesn't want to have bad relationships with anybody, and it doesn't want to say no to foreign direct investment, but we'll have to be very careful on how the international situation play out to ensure that we're not upsetting our international partners in that respect.
Thanks very much. We're now running close to time. We've got a lot of questions which we haven't been able to answer. But I think that what I'll ask you to do just in the last few minutes is to say, each of you, what developments you would particularly look out for in the course of 2021. What would you look to be happening which would help really help move the government's agenda forward and help deal with these challenges. Dr. Yusuf.
To me, I think we need really to energize our people. I mean, particularly young Omani. I mean, and really because that is our strength, and changing certain, as I mentioned, certain mindset and perceptions that I mean we can do it. Oman is known as a very strong country, and this is temporarily. We have all the ingredients of success. We are really moving ahead with really clear, I mean, what they call it, clear vision. And also, I really like to invite participants to visit to Smart Investment Gateway, because we are trying to facilitate investment attraction to Oman, trying really to make it easy and tabulate the investment opportunity. I have my CEO and partner also from the UK, and we are really good on that. And I think foreign direct investment also will be an important milestone 2020.
Excellent. Fatma.
Okay, I think from my point of view, the most interesting thing to keep an eye for is how will the government tackle the unemployment in 2021 and even in the coming couple of years, because now the government is taking less number of graduates to work for the government. You already have too many people working for the government. They try to shrink that number by forcing many of them to go to retirement, or even merging many of the government entities, canceling or abolishing some of the state-owned companies, and reshuffling the staff on other state agencies. So all these factors actually limiting the number of opportunities for the young Omanis to join the government sector. And here will be the very interesting point is how will the government will actually going to encourage and boost the private sector, especially SMEs. The Sultan himself has ordered a package of different facilities only for SMEs, designed for SMEs for the coming 2 to 3 years, which is a good step. But now we'll have to put them on practice. You need to create more jobs for Omanis in the private sector, and you'll need to create more opportunities in the economy for everyone, because currently there is always this debate between Omanis or non-Omanis. When we've seen hundreds of thousands of expats leaving the country in 2021 as part of in 2020 as part of the corona impact, and as a correction measure as well for different flaws in the market. All these things shrank the economy. These are all indications of a shrinking economy. So you need to make your economy bigger enough to take all these people. So this will be the most important thing, where you allow even more expats to come to the country and work, but at the same time to make it way easier for Omanis, especially job seekers, to get jobs and to start their own businesses at a very affordable steps and capital. This will be the most important thing that I'll be keeping an eye for in the coming year.
Thanks very much. You've answered a number of questions that we didn't previously cover in that. Abdullah, what about you?
I think my colleagues have covered everything, Richard, but if I may just to add to say that there has been promises, of course, of change, and there are certain areas where the change has been announced, whether it's in the constitution or in the government or the speeches of His Majesty. And I think we'll be watching out how these promises are going to be implemented and delivered. And one of the things I will be watching out for is there is a talk about efficient government and more productive government, and less costly government, which is taking place. Those reforms are taking place as it is, but reforms do not stop there. So I would watch for how far is these reforms going to go, and in that respect, I will also be watching out what kind of legislations and laws that are going to change. We have lots of crumbling legislations and laws that are outdated and do not meet the new outlook, and whether these are going to be changed or we will continue on the same old path. The private sector is actually suffering from these laws and regulations and legislations, and so is international investments. I will also look out for, the idea that the Constitution calls for women empowerment and equal rights. How far are we going to see that happening? Is it just going to be rhetoric, or is it going to be real? I think we need to understand that we are a small population. 50% at least of this workforce are women. Are we going to really empower them and give them the right positions that they deserve? I think that is something that I would like to watch. What the government is going to do for the private sector? The private sector at the moment, because of COVID and because of the twin, if you like, effect of COVID-19 and the oil prices and the global economy and all of that, is suffering badly. What kind of stimulus measures is the government going to put into that? And I also would like to see some kind of reform on the way that we think in terms of the work ethics in the country, at the public, but also at the private sector. We have young people. Some of them are very highly educated, etc. But we have been poisoned by the rentier psychology, where we are really reliant on the government to give us everything. Now we need to change that, and it's not going to be easy. Who is going to change that work ethics? And where is the Islamic or the Muslim or the religious institutions? What are they going to play in that respect? What are they going to instill in these young people to push them towards work ethics and being, productive young people, rather than, just keeping doing the old thing of, you just have to obey and believe and all of that, without installing those principles that actually came within Islam, but is being forgotten for many reasons. So I would like to see. I would watch how this is going to change. What are the religious institutions are going to play in terms of development? You cannot have development and change in the country without all the sectors, and especially the moral sector, which is, again, in this respect, I would say the religious institution has a very important role to play. Are they going to play a role just beyond the mosque and beyond the speeches in the mosque? I'll stop there.
Phew. Well, thank you very much indeed. Between the three of you, you've covered an impressive amount of ground and given us a great deal to think about and a great deal to watch over the coming months. And I think also you've helped us put in context this flow of actions that the government has been taking over the last year since His Majesty Sultan Haytham took over the government. I think we will probably have to invite you all back in a year's time. We'll keep your predictions and see what has happened by then. But for the time being, I'd like, on behalf of our audience, and I apologize to the audience for not including all their questions, to thank you on their behalf for your time and the very great amount of thought that you've given to us. So thank you very much indeed. And we look forward to seeing you again, not too distant future. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.